Hello, my name is Ron Raffretti, and welcome to my commemorative speech. I can finally stand up, I can finally move around a little bit, which is fantastic. I apologize for all my hand gestures, and sorry if I start bouncing around a little bit, but I am a lively, active person. I just got to be able to talk to the crowd this way. So, today's commemorative speech, I'm commemorating Pastor Jeremy Cotton. Weird that somebody would pick a pastor, non-relative, just totally outside the spectrum. But when I was sitting down trying to think about my commemorative speech, I was thinking about all these different influential leaders. I was trying to think of, my dad, how he's affected my life. My mom, what she's done in my life. My grandma, my grandfather, And I'm looking at all these basic core value things that, I should hold near and dear. And I started looking at those values, and it's like, man, that's a different value. And then I started looking at my life and how my life is now. And I'm looking at this other hand. It's like, I just got this hand filled with, it looks like nothing, but there's like scripture, there's ministry, there's, basically God in this hand. And in this hand where I grew up, there was none of that. There was no fulfillment in life. It was fulfillment with materialistic things. It was fulfillment in what do you bring to the table. There was nothing in there that says, hey, there's purpose to you. There's more to you. Here's a piece of iron. Let's sharpen you up a little bit. Let's get you ready to fly into the night. So Jeremy, he is a crazy guy. We went round and round and round and round before I finally started coming around. And the best way to describe it to you is, if you were to take a gun and you were to shoot a sandbag, right? The bullet will not go through that sandbag. It's going to stop on the impact, right? And you think, that's crazy. I got 44. I'll shoot the sandbag with a 44. It'll go through. No, it won't. But if you were to grab my bow and arrow and you were to draw back and we were to fire it at the exact same sandbag, that arrow would puncture through and it would keep going until it lost all its velocity and just dropped to the ground. It's weird. Why is that? We could get into the sciences behind it. We could get into the whole ideal behind it. But the idea I like to use is the Hebrew archers, they were so feared that at night the enemy was actually scared to breathe because they thought the sound of their own breath, the archers could hear it, and the Hebrews would hit them in the dead of the night. The way they used to make their arrows, it came from a tree. It looked like a bonsai tree. It's all crooked. And what they would do is just start cutting off the limbs. They'd dig a hole in the ground. They'd make a little jig frame, and they'll slowly try and bend it as much as they can, set it. They'd cover it in oil, and they'd let it sit. After a while, that oil will start absorbing into that branch, into that chunk of wood, right? And then they would slowly adjust the frame, re-soak it, really start getting it to build itself up. And once they start getting a nice, true, straight-looking arrow, they would take it out, they'd toss it out in the sun, say, all right, we're going to let it there. We're going to let it harden up and dry. So they'll come back after some time of the sun's beating down on it. They'll pick up this little stick and they'll start slamming it against a rock a couple times. Well, the rock broke. Guess what? That means our little stick is going to become an arrow. But what if your stick breaks? Well, if your stick breaks, it needs to go back into the oil. It needs to soak a little longer. It needs to be thrown back out into the sun. It needs to be dried. It needs to be tested again. And that's where I was in my life. I was getting thrown into the oil, and I was getting thrown into the sun. I was getting smashed against the rocks, and I just kept breaking. I used to tell people all the time, I'm bowing, I'm bending, I'm never broken. Well, no, I was beyond broken. And so when Jeremy came into my life, Jeremy was trying to help me out with just me as an individual. He didn't know that I had marriage crisis going on, that part of the marriage crisis is, I have kids and the house and everything that's kind of involved with just being married, right? So we just started focusing on me. And he came in and he started explaining to me that it's like, you have great strengths, you have a great purpose in life, but you're missing one thing. You're missing that fulfillment. And so I started just reading the Bible, and I didn't get half of what I was reading. Yeah, some of them were great stories. Unfortunately for me, I started in Isaiah, and I was totally confused because when I was reading Isaiah, I didn't know he was a Old Testament prophet that everybody's going to base everything off of. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know that when I went to Israel, I was going to see a Qumran sea scroll, and if I could actually read Hebrew perfectly, actually Yiddish, right to left, we don't speak left to right. Going right to left, it actually translates into what I read now in English. Almost word for word, it transfers across. And that really started opening my eyes to a lot of things. So this guy, he came in to my life when it was broken, when it was shattered, when it was destroyed. And he started acting like that person who is making arrows, right? That small process of dunking yourself into the oil, of going out into the sun to get hard and smashing yourself and testing yourself against that rock. Just so, biblically, parents raise your children like arrows that they fire into the night. I don't want to raise boomerang children. I want to raise my kids to be like arrows. I want them to be able to be tried, to be tested, and to be trued, so that when I fire them off into the world, they're going to sail off into the distance. Hopefully the one time they come back is just to see me, bring the grandkids, let me spoil them a little bit. I got a teenage daughter, so trust me, that's all getting close to me. But no, it's absolutely awesome, the things that he has done into my life. And so as I wrap up this commemorative speech, I just want to show you guys one thing. This here is a Paul Reed Smith guitar. Now what's great about Paul Reed Smith is he took the ideas of a Fender, took the ideas of a Gibson, he put them all together into one beautifully crafted system, right? When you buy a Core Series, the Custom 22, Custom 24, whatever it is that you buy, you're buying a handcrafted, here in America, guitar. Even the coils, everything is all custom made. I just have to throw a nice shout out because this is Betty. I name her. But this is going to play into a large demonstration of what I'm talking about. So each and every bit of this guitar is handcrafted. It is hand molded. It is hand designed. Which means somebody had to sit there with this piece of sandpaper and go over this thing constantly to make that violin top. And that's what I had Jeremy do in my life. He took all that rough edge stuff out of me. He took all the different fears that I had, the inabilities that I thought I had. You'll be surprised, self-doubt, self-worth, and really started just running that sandpaper over him. And it hurt, it did, but eventually it started becoming smooth. And eventually he started taking these different parts, these good parts of my life, and started making them into one, which kind of made me whole again. And since then, since he's come into my life, I've traveled the world in ministry. I've been in 7 different countries, One Nation, One Day trips. I've led congregational. I've done a lot of ministry-based stuff. I'm huge into marriage ministries. I'm huge into children's ministries. And these are different aspects of my life that I truly wouldn't even be at if I didn't have somebody come into my life and say, hey, you are not being properly prepared. You need to be immersed in this oil. You need to be thrown into the sun. You need to be dried. And I'm going to beat you against every freaking rock I could find until you don't break. And once I got to that point, I could look back at my life and look at this one man and say, thank you very much. Thank you for watching.